Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. I don't know if you heard, but Dave Chappelle's been canceled. He was canceled by the Alphabet Mafia. First, there were a couple of morons over at Netflix who wanted to make it clear that he was going to feel the wrath. Now, both of these two happen to be transgender, and they called themselves organizing a Netflix employee protest. They were going to put some pain on Netflix and show their displeasure. But according to Netflix, these two didn't stop there. The first one, by the name of B. Paggles Minor, was accused of violating Netflix's computer security in a pathetic attempt to attack the company. This person lost their job for that. Keep in mind, this is a black person who was doing the most to stick up for the LGBT movement. Now, the other person, Tara Field, who dyed their hair purple, tried to barge into a company meeting without permission. Now, this person, who was white, they were allowed to keep their job. And how did they repay Netflix? They filed a labor complaint against the company. Well, a few days ago, Purple Hair was forced to abandon their nuisance suit and resign from the company. These two were indisputably in the wrong, but this was about getting attention. And it's only when they're attacking a black person that we see these LGBT activists getting this outraged. They only do all this extra stuff with us. By the way, the purple-haired person wrote a social media post where they claimed they stood in solidarity with the black LGBT person who got themselves fired. Quote, I made a decision, sink or swim. I was going to walk side by side with B as they had for so many of us while they led the trans ERG. Now keep in mind, this was last month. Pagel was fired last month, but Field was allowed to keep their job. Field didn't resign in protest. Field didn't even take a day off work. Field stayed at Netflix and kept getting a check. So while Pagel was walking to the unemployment line, Field was walking into work. When you play the fool, you lose a lot. Now, if these people were this gung-ho to stick up for black people, willing to perform data breaches, but of course, they're not willing to do these things for black people. They're trying to escape blackness by claiming they have multiple identities. So they make it a point to go over the top with declaring themselves biracial, LGBT, intersectional, non-binary, etc. Scream it loud as you can, stand next to people who are not black, and claim your identity is with them, and the white supremacists will leave you alone, right? It never works, but they keep trying. And if your new friends say that they're mad about something, and it's usually a black person who they're mad at, then this aspiring escapee from blackness will be out front doing the most to prove that they're more angry than their new friends. That's how it always is with these folks you see hanging out with the so-called left or so-called right. If their pals grumble about something, then the aspiring escapee from blackness will be absolutely furious about it. If the white leftist or white right-winger is yelling about something, then the aspiring escapee from blackness will be throwing things, climbing buildings or the Statue of Liberty, and trying to hack into companies' computers. They want to prove they're more concerned about their white pals' interests than their white pals are. And if that sounds like Malcolm's proverbial house Negro, you're absolutely right. These people can play these games with themselves, but white supremacy isn't fooled. Okay, well, that was the first attempt to cancel Dave Chappelle. Yeah, crashed and burned, but you know what? Sometimes you take your shot and you miss, but try again, and sooner or later law of averages will kick in, right? Well, that brings us to the rot. You'll recall a couple of weeks ago, they were falsely claiming that Chappelle's high school was distancing itself from him. Now, there was absolutely nothing to indicate that they were doing so. But apparently when the school said that they wanted to postpone a fundraiser in regards to the theater that they were going to name after him, that for the rot. Oh, look, they're distancing themselves. Okay, maybe they're not, but we're going to say it and hopefully people will believe it. Yeah, anything for clicks, right? Well, that kind of lying backfires on you. Chappelle made an appearance at his old high school last week, and by all accounts, things went off without a hitch. And not only is Chappelle not backing down, he's tripling down. Remember when he said that he wouldn't do any more LGBT material? Well, apparently he changed his mind because in his new comedy show, he tells some trans jokes. And the alphabet is mad. Chappelle even conducted a little Q&A with the kids afterwards, following his appearance at the high school last week. That also went well, with the exception of one or two attention-seeking punks who Chappelle dismissed as immature because that's what a 16-year-old is. You know, young people with chronic behavioral problems really shouldn't be at these kind of group events. Anyway, the white media is on code and they're just cutting and pasting the same thing. That's what they were doing last week. They can't say that Chappelle's high school appearance was canceled. So they lied and said that the school was distancing itself, but that didn't work. So now what they're saying is, well, he was met with mixed responses. Dave Chappelle is the biggest comedian on the planet right now. Arguably the most relevant entertainment figure on the planet right now. And he goes to his old high school, and people think it's surprising that there's a couple of malcontents among the student body who will do anything for some quickie attention. And we're supposed to take that seriously. And whoever these empty-headed clods were, I guess for them they were swinging for the fences. One of them said that he was a bigot. Now, part of why the white media was mad about what happened last week was because Chappelle deprived them of having any video. They would love to have that kind of thing. He's no fool. Before the function even began, Chappelle required that all of the folks in attendance had to hand over their cell phones before they would be allowed to enter the auditorium. This way, none of these idiots could post videos that the white media would run with. So what they had was basically accounts that were given to them verbally. You'd have to see it in print because there is no video. Yeah, Dave Chappelle understands the white media. Whenever you got these clowns, these astroturf punks looking for attention, they love the whole thing about video because that gives them something you can show, and the white media can play it and say, see, take a look at Chappelle. Obviously, he was devastated. He knew he was caught out. But instead, it's a matter of, nope, you're just getting an account that's sold to you. So you don't have the ability to try to tell people what it is that they're seeing. You don't have anything at all. They're mad. Dave Chappelle has yet again outsmarted a bunch of idiots. He hampered their ability to control the narrative. So yet another attempt by the white media and a bunch of malcontents with mental disorders have failed to take down Dave Chappelle yet again. You would think that they would learn, but the problem that they have is, well, when it comes to a black person, especially a black man who they've decided that they want to attack, well, they never seem able to take a hint. Too bad, because the public simply isn't going to turn against Dave Chappelle. The public's with him. So that's the reason why they wanted video of him at that high school, so they could say, look how he was speaking to a bunch of kids. The kids, think about the children, the kids. That's the angle they were hoping to play, and he deprived them of that, as he should. The school invited him. They didn't invite any of these attention-seeking punks. They invited him to show up. He attended. One or two idiots complained, but in an era where teenagers all have cell phones and a TikTok or Instagram account, it's to be expected that a few of them will do anything just to get someone to acknowledge their meager existence. And the white media will echo the defamatory smears because Chappelle outsmarted them. Again, he beat Viacom by forcing them to surrender their license on his name and to pay him millions of dollars that they owed. And this is supposed to be the white media's revenge, but it just ain't happening. They know it won't matter, but they're furious that this black man has successfully defied them, and they're terrified that he's going to get others to do the same. Now, following Chappelle's appearance at his high school last week, what he did was he posted on Instagram that he was going to be doing a fundraiser for the theater because there were some people who were spreading the rumor that, the school, they're getting cold feet. Maybe they're not going to name it after Chappelle. He said, hell, this is a game of big bank takes little bank, or in the case of those punks, no bank. So he put up a post saying that he was going to do a fundraiser to raise money for the school, and that he wanted to see if the people who didn't like him, if they would contribute and go ahead and say, I don't like you. And the people who did support him, if they contributed and said, we're contributing because we support you. He said if the people who don't like him, if their contribution is greater than the people who do support him, he said that he would automatically take himself out of the running. He would tell the school, you ain't got to name the school after me. The people have spoken, and they've spoken with their dollars. That wasn't just smart, it was brilliant. Making the statement, this comes down to money. You can complain all you want about what you think you're offended by, but at the end of the day, you can't hurt me because my supporters actually put money behind their words. That's because the alphabet doesn't have any numbers, financially or numerically. And what was the response of Dave's high school to this? They announced that they were going to go forward with renaming the theater after him. They were telling him, you ain't got to worry about doing your fundraiser. You have made it where we have to go ahead and take a side, and we're taking yours. We have to speak up, and we're speaking up for you. Look what Newsweek says. Dave Chappelle's alma mater will still name theater after him despite Netflix controversy. Now, that's a doggone loaded headline if there ever was. Getting the point across, they're still going forward with him despite the fact that this man, he has offended the alphabet. This black man, he needs to bow and scrape and beg, and he won't beg, and the white media can't force him to bend the knee, and he just won't do it. So while the rot is busy putting out phony headlines claiming that Chappelle's high school is distancing itself from them, well, don't look now, rot. But Chappelle's high school is ignoring the punks, and they're standing with Dave Chappelle. You see, it's a coward who decides that they're going to be attacking a black man under white supremacy. Black people, and black men in particular, don't have the power to be calling anybody to account. So everybody figures that black people and black men in specific happen to be easy targets. They're going to be soft targets. And the reason why is you just say this black man here, he's threatening. He threatens everyone. Everyone's threatened by him. Don't you know what danger you're putting? The danger you see. Yeah, they ain't talking that way about Jussie Smollett. Nobody's saying, well, gee, all of this attacking by the media against this gay black man. Wow, you guys are really putting the LGBT community at risk. You know, you really shouldn't be punching down like that. No, they ain't saying that about him. Smollett doesn't have the complexion for the protection, though he might have fooled himself into thinking that he did. But the entire idea about going after Chappelle is a lynching by proxy, because while there are legitimate instances of anti-LGBT discrimination, or even crimes for that matter, none of these clowns, especially not the white media, are talking about any of them. They're going after Dave Chappelle because it's safe. Ed Buck was murdering LGBT men in Los Angeles, and nobody gave a rip. None of these people who are getting all exercised about Dave Chappelle were saying anything. The same white media that wants to devote headlines to saying he got a mixed reaction when he went to his high school, they weren't saying a damn thing about Ed Buck until black folks put the pressure on to bring this scumbag to account. So no, they don't care about the safety and security of LGBT people, whether they be children, adults, or what have you. The white media don't give a damn. They're just using them as a pretense to do something they wanted to do anyway. Dave Chappelle's been a marked man ever since he went on Oprah and talked about how he refused to wear a dress and explained that these Hollywood producers, these studios, they pressure black people, particularly black men, into doing this emasculating stuff. They pressure you into it. They go, well, you need to do it. We've written the script, and oh God, think about how much money we're going to be. They do all that mess to try to pressure you into it. He made it clear, I ain't doing it. You can say whatever the hell you want. Not happening. He was a marked man when he put that business out there. When he's exposed it, he had the guts to actually say that. They decided right then and there, something has to be done about him. They wanted Dave Chappelle to bow down, and he refused to. And they have been trying for over 10 years now to find some way. If they couldn't destroy him, can they undermine him? Can they dirty him up? Turn the public against him? And it just isn't working. Nothing they're doing is working. He goes to his old high school and he knows, there's probably going to be a couple of little troublemakers here who think that they're going to be getting some attention from the white media. Negroes always know what it is that the white supremacists want. Well, we know what it is that the white supremacists want to see, the fastest, most expedient way to get attention from white mommy and white daddy. So Dave Chappelle was ready for that. He said, before y'all come in this auditorium, you got to drop off all your digital devices. There's no cameras allowed on this one. It just goes to show there is simply no substitute for having a spine. There is simply no substitute for a black man who makes it very clear he is not afraid. There is no substitute for standing on your own 2 feet. There just isn't. So I can only imagine what the rot is going to be putting on their front page about this. Dave Chappelle's school caves in to hate. Controversy abounds. They're going to be pretending as if they can paint their own reality. If they say to the public, such and such a school has made a controversial decision. Oh, these guys, they're on the wrong side of white supremacy. Of history. They figure if they say that, that's going to suddenly take hold in the public mind. But it won't, because it can't, because it's not reality. These people in the LGBT community attacking Dave Chappelle, that's cowardly. You already know that as a black man, he probably doesn't have the ability to impose consequences on you. Now, you're not doing anything about the white supremacists who actually do commit crimes against LGBT people. You're not doing that. You're not hot and bothered about that. You're not on a crusade about that. You're not mentioning that. Gee, if you didn't know better, you'd swear that they weren't at all. That's a doggone lie. They're the ones who deprive LGBT people of jobs, or deprive them of housing, or otherwise deprive them of what they think they're supposed to have. There's no black person who can do that because no black person has the power to. But of course, we all know that basically they're allowing themselves to be used as stalking horses for an anti-black agenda. Dave Chappelle stands as a symbol of a black man who defied the white media, and they got to find a way to extract their pound of flesh. They haven't been able to gin up any quickie indictments against him, haven't been able to take the guy into court. But as far as they're concerned, we're going to destroy this guy one way or the other. We'll tell whatever lies we got to tell. We'll put up whatever fraudulent headlines we got to put up. We'll claim his high school is distancing itself, even if it's not. And hopefully if people see this, people are stupid. People are gullible. They'll fall for anything. If they see a headline saying this, if they see a lot of headlines saying it, why, they'll go for it, and they don't understand. People ain't listening to the white media on this. They're listening to Dave Chappelle on this. He's made it very clear. Twitter is not a real place. And these white media mouthpieces like The Rot are not real news. They just ain't. And as for people who think to themselves that if they just claim that their primary identity is not white, that it's LGBT, that apparently somehow that's going to be a perfect camouflage to use for an anti-black racist attack they're learning now, no, nobody's fooled. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting Dave Chappelle up for sainthood or anything. I just think the issue is that the fact that he is not backing down and that the white media's lies are being exposed for everyone to see, that is important and it does deserve to be mentioned. A lot of black people, especially black men in entertainment or in sports, which is basically the same thing, they quake in their boots and they tremble with terror at even the prospect that they might have run afoul of the alphabet. Well, Dave Chappelle is demonstrating in real time how you stand up to the alphabet. You do it with math. Good day, and be one.